Let's get started here. We still have a few more teams. If they don't show up now, then they just pick up their envelopes and then figure it out from there. Welcome. I'm Philip.
The 253 film competition, it's essentially 72 hours where you get together with a group of people that you trust and enjoy collaborating with. You have 72 hours to write, edit, direct, produce, polish in 72 hours to make the best thing that you can.
We get 4 requirements that we must include in our film in some way. And that's the fun part, is they don't tell us how we have to include these 4 elements. They must be included though.
We had to include a discarded item. We had to have the phrase,
some people have it worse.
We had to have...
What were they? Flashback, discarded item.
Did to have...
Other people had it worse.
A flashback. A lot of people have it worse. A discarded item.
Public art.
A piece of public art.
And public art, which was probably the least specific and least defined one, and kind of my favorite because it inspired us. It's enough to sort of spark an idea but not be super specific, so where everybody's going to make the same film.
We get our envelopes from the Grand, we open them up and see what it is, and we head on over to whatever local pizza and beer joint that we want to go to that night. We set up shop and we just spend the rest of the evening flinging ideas out and having a good time, generally coming up with what we're going to do.
Just basically the choreography of it, that's my favorite kind of collaboration. I love to sit down and essentially have writer's block 20, 30, 40 times in a night.
We very intentionally, right off the bat, discard what we consider obvious choices. So immediately with public art, for example, we're not going to be using public art.
We don't want to go down any of those routes. It's not that we don't think that they're valid ideas, we just know that a lot of human brains have the same associations, and we don't want to make potentially the same film as other people are making.
Basically got together and went over what the idea was for the script, and then Paul came in and was just like honed in and knew exactly what we were going to do, and then we all liked his idea better. So.
Thursday night, I went home and wrote out basically all the ideas from all our scraps of notes of paper into a rough outline. It wasn't a specific script necessarily, but it was like, Paul says these things, establishes this information, Adam establishes this information, whatever.
The concept that we came up with was based off the suggestion, or the requirement I should say, a discarded item. It was from this we thought of what's a discarded item, people throwing away trash. That was the A to B association, that was the simplest association. Who would discard an item? A lot of people would discard an item. It could have been anything. And our brains immediately jumped on this board game kind of associations, a discarded item. You discard something. We took this idea of something that had been discarded and essentially blew it up to how can somebody discard an item and have it affect an entire world. The location was incredibly critical to our production.
That was probably the most stressful part of our process.
On Friday afternoon, we did not have a location.
We found like an old Safeway like strip mall that nobody was using that had a fence around it, and we were like, man, if we hopped that fence and went inside, it'd be really quiet and it would look really cool, but do we want to break the law? Do we want to get hurt?
And we sat in a parking lot kind of kicking rocks, thinking about where we were going to go, and even in that moment of, I think we're done, we still looked at each other saying, okay, well, what can we do? And it wasn't until Carl said, hey, would you like to see a picture of a couple that I took? I looked at this picture and I immediately said, where is this? Because we've been looking for this dystopian kind of looking area.
Filming was a bit on the fly as far as we had the location, but we had never done a walkthrough of what we were going to film. So we were still figuring out exactly where we were going to film and what the blocking was going to be. We knew that we wanted to do it in just one shot, and so Dalton had to kind of figure out how he was going to navigate through all of us and make sure that he was telling the story with who he should be on.
What was I thinking? What were we thinking about doing it in one take? We were thinking that we wanted the extra challenge. We were thinking that we wanted that extra challenge. We wanted that extra wrench in the spokes. We appreciated the, okay, we can take on this challenge in the past, and it's not an ego thing. It's a, can we do this? Is this attainable? This is the last thing that I'm going to say.
One of the attractions to a single take shot, for me especially, is the rehearsal involved in creating such a shot. So it's not just my responsibility to make sure this goes well. The actors themselves have to get all their lines correct in sequence, good timing, funny timing if it's necessary. Whatever has to happen perfectly every time, the whole way through, for 4 minutes in our case. And we had 13 takes this year.
We could have used 3 other takes. We used the very final take because of what the table did in the very final take.
We almost didn't record the 13th take. Carl was deferring to me. He said, "Dalton, I know you have to go. Do we have time for another?" And I was like, you know, being me, I thought, what the heck, let's do another. Sure, let's do one more. I had to stop on Saturday after the shoot because I had to go shoot a wedding the rest of the day. That's the reason we had to shoot in 5 hours, you know, take it or leave it, because I had to go.
The post process was exhilarating, I guess.
So do you just have a track of Carl?
The sweat is dripping and we're trying to figure out what goes where. I was playing with Adam's iPad and putting like different notes together and making this sort of like Tron soundtrack to it. And then Dalton was just like, no, like, this shouldn't have that. And
we made it a little bit more green, a little bit just sort of darker and grungier feeling as much as we could. And frankly, in editing, I didn't do all of it intelligently necessarily. There was a lot of things where I just picked a knob and sort of wiggled it and saw what happened on the screen.
Well, every year when we're making the movie, I always say, I don't care about awards. I don't care if we win any of the stuff. I just want to make a movie that we're proud of, that at the end of the day, I will be like, I'm glad I made this, I had fun, and I want to watch our movie.
It's exciting, there's anticipation, it becomes bigger than it really is, which is just a collection of people who made movies for fun in local Tacoma to have a good time together one evening. But it feels like it may as well be LA. You know?
And then the night of the awards happens, and all I can think is, I hope we win an award. Oh man, I want to win an award. If we don't win an award, it was all for nothing. All I care about is the awards.
I'm thinking about how is this audience going to be receptive to our film, but how is this audience going to be receptive to this event as a whole? Because it's not about our film, it's about everybody getting together, whoever made a film that night. This is not an easy thing to do. So to get everybody, all those teams in the same room, and it's a unique kind of energy. It's way different than going to just a normal movie premiere with one director and one producer. When you have multiple teams, you have multiple energies coming in.
I love Tacoma, I love this city, and I love seeing what so many different people in the community create when they bring films. And being like, oh, that's what you thought of when you heard those suggestions, or that's the direction you went with it, that's so cool.
The knowledge that there are several hundred people all sitting here staring at your artistic creation that you have all sorts of reservations about because you created it so hastily and you wish you could go back and correct this and make it better this way. All these holes that you see as the creator, you're now afraid of what everybody else in the audience is going to think. They're all filmmakers too. They might notice that you screwed that up, or that sounds a little weird, or they heard that kid screaming in the background, or you know.
So when they announced it, they were like, and Best Picture goes to, and I was just like, if we lose, that's fine. I still made a movie I'm proud of. I don't even care. It wouldn't bother. I don't care.
Victory points.
And then they yelled our name, and I was just like, darn right.
I sprinted downstairs and went to the stage, and I totally had outrun all the other guys, so I was just standing up there like waiting for everybody else to come up.
So it was good to know that what I hold true to my artistic heart is actually making sense to others, especially in this format when you have a very short amount of time to create something. I'm absolutely going to do it every year until I can't do it. I will spread the word about this competition. I want more talent to come into this competition. I know there's stuff up in Seattle, I know there's stuff over in other cities, but I want this specific competition to be a sought-after competition that people will actually travel to and want to do.
By the second decade of the 21st century, new board games were being manufactured at an alarming pace. More people were playing board games than at any other time in recorded history. People stopped going to work. Firefighters stopped answering calls. Parents abandoned their children. All to play board games. The world united and created an international task force of game ban enforcement officers. Known to the underground as flashbacks because of their unique uniforms, these ruthless officers have driven board game players into the very fringes of society.
Off the market.
Okay, so I'm gonna discard my wood item, and it says here that when you discard an item card, gain 5 additional victory points and return the discarded item to your hand.
What? Let me see that.
Hey! Hey! I said quiet!
You worried about getting caught? I told you, flashbacks don't come out this far. Hey, board game enforcers! We're playing out here! We got a board game! Come arrest us! My last turn, I got 6 gold for selling my ore, and I also have the upgrade, which means that I can build 2 structures at a discount of 3. So that's 4 victory points for me.
Well, well, well. What do we have here? Resource cards, discard pile. You boys are in a lot of trouble. I'm afraid this authorizes me to use lethal force.
Wait. It's not a board game. It's
interactive art, sir.
Interactive art out here?
Yes, we like to take our art out into the world.
Yep, right. It's public art, sir. This is public art.
Interactive public art.
Surely a man of your stature is a supporter of the arts.
Show me.
Okay, sir, you can move any of these sculptures on any part of this canvas that you want. It's up to you.
All right. I'll move here.
Oh, that's a good move. Well, that is a market, which means you can buy one of these resource cards, or you can build a structure.
I'll build a structure.
Okay, how about the Hall of Justice?
Ooh, the Hall of Justice. I like that. Yes, I'll build that one.
Okay, you get this.
Gain 5 victory points every winter till the end of the game. Game over.
No!
No respect for the law, that's your problem. You want to go back to the days of board games? A lot of people had it really bad back then.
Yeah? And now a lot of people have it worse. Discard that. We got a game to play.
I'm Cheryl DeGroot, and I'm a jewelry designer in Tacoma, Washington. And I do production and one-of-a-kind pieces. The studio is 11 by 25. It's very comfortable. I spend probably 99% of my days out here when I'm home. I work in sheet and wire, mostly sheet. I'm kind of known for mixed metal, sterling silver with brass soldered onto it, and then that's cut up and made earrings and necklaces out of it. I used to work in the shipyard, and the stuff that I was doing when I got out of the shipyards in 1982, I used to work under a crane and direct loads, you know, all over the shipyard. And so there was a lot of angular wire stuff that I was doing that was very complex and a lot of soldered work. And I think that that was probably an inspiration, you know, working there. Here, I'm more geared towards earthy things. So plants, flowers, mountains, rock. I'm kind of a pack rat. Lived in Kodiak, Alaska back in the early 70s and got really into wildlife, collect feathers and things like that that interest me, bones. If you were to dig through my studio, you'd find boxes full of feathers and things. I collect beads too. I have so many beads, and lately a lot of buttons. I remember when I was a small girl we went to see this lady all the time, and she'd always bring out her quart jar of buttons for me to look at and to play with on the table. And I still have a love of buttons, so I guess I just keep collecting. I collect old jewelry, I collect everything. Much to my husband's dismay, of course. There's a bit of repetition, but you know, it's how I make my living. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet. But you know, there's not a day, I don't care how many orders I've got waiting for me, or a big order from the Seattle Art Museum, you know, I don't mind walking through that door, and this is where I feel like I'm at home.
My name is Antonio Gomez, and I'm a percussionist. My work focuses on cultural dialogue. So for me, music is very social. It's a platform for people to connect with each other. As a percussionist, I see my role not only as to create rhythm and keep time, but also to create color and ambiance. And so I draw on musical traditions from around the world. I focus mostly on Afro-Latin music and Mediterranean music. And what I mean by Mediterranean music is music of Spain and Italy, as well as North Africa and the Middle East. This creative space is about including artifacts and art from some of my travels and some of my study in different corners of the world, but also having wide open windows that remind me of where I am and give me a sense of place in the Northwest, where I can see evergreen trees, but I can also see the industrial edge of Tacoma, and all of those things come together. They inspire me. They allow me to think back on my travels and think about the places I've been and the place where I am, and find how there are some common strands of human experience between these places and these peoples. A lot of my music focuses on the space between different cultures and different experiences, different ideas. As someone who grew up with family that come from different parts of the world, I've always been situated between different cultural experiences. And so this is really important to me in my art, to explore those spaces, that idea of having one foot in one place and one foot in the other. And sometimes those places are a market in Morocco or a coastal village in Panama. I consider myself a student of this huge wealth of knowledge that exists around the world. Every community has created its own sense of musical tradition. And you can even go from one village to the next village, 10 kilometers down, and find a completely different tradition. The question that I'm always asking is, how can I learn from and honor the traditions that I encounter? And then how can I use them as a vocabulary to talk about our common global experience in this 21st century?
So let's kind of put these out.
My name is Heather Conklin, and I'm a visual arts educator at Lincoln High School, and I'm also on the Tacoma Arts Commission. So I was on the selection committee for the public art piece, that actually is now Horatio Law, and I was also on the selection committee for all of the Lincoln mini grants. All of the artists and all of the mini grant projects have all used many people, and so we've incorporated kids and community and families and schools, so they're all incorporated, kind of bringing the community together.
So the idea is to create a mural on the intersection with community input. My name is Dionne Bonner, and I am a visual artist. I started by talking to community to finding out if they indeed wanted a community mural. We did about 5 or 6 workshops where we did some creative thinking exercises, and we thought about Lincoln District in different ways. And then I came up with some different designs, and then I had the community vote on those designs to see which ones resonated with them the most. When community members feel that they're involved and they know that they're involved, when they really have a hand in creating something, then they have more ownership over that area and they feel more connected. I think they also feel more connected to each other, and that was one of the comments that people gave me. They felt connected more to the people that they have been living by, you know, like for years.
We've been in Tacoma since 1929, when my grandfather started us here. We're in the third generation now.
I'm Salong Chen. I'm a living artist here in Tacoma, and I am into multimedia. The video project that I'm working on will profile a couple of different businesses in the area. My goal is to show the diversity and the different types of businesses that are in the Lincoln District. When we see a business, we see them as an entity and not as people. We just see, oh, this is the place that we just shop and get our groceries. Oh, this is a restaurant we come get our pho. But in reality, there's people behind these, and our project was to expose the human side of these businesses.
That's something that Home Depot could never do.
No. They don't know the names of their customers.
For them to be able to still be in business is very impressive to me, so I wanted to get down and behind that and learn their story and what makes them successful.
We do basic home cooking, things that people love.
The climate of our country today, especially in the media and social networking, we feel like we're so divided, but I wanted to show another side of that, that is not true. It's just this echo chamber that we fall into, and I just wanted to show the people in our community here that there's so much diversity here in the businesses, and they're able to succeed. So we are, to me, the way I see it is like we can work together. We are working together, and this is evidence of that.
The Lincoln District Revitalization Project will incorporate public art into the streetscape and find some way to connect the street and the district with the community. My name is Horatio Law. I'm the lead artist for the Lincoln District Revitalization Project. My role is to incorporate art into the streetscape and also contribute to the design and also provide a way to connect with the community through art. How did you guys come up with the cloud form?
I think Horatio was a great fit for this project in that he really engages the community.
What is that?
It is not his artwork that he's kind of imposing on somebody. He really wants other people's voices and other people to really inspire what his vision will be.
Well, there are 3 things I asked you guys to write down, remember?
With Horatio's first project, he talked to the kids and worked with them about their dreams and aspirations, and they were actually able to find their own voice and able to share with the community at large what they felt was important.
Do you remember what you wrote down for your cloud form?
Students have responded to Horatio and the whole revitalization project in very positive ways. They want to be a part of it, they want to have a say, they want to see what the changes are going to be, and this has been a really good way to get them actually excited about their neighborhood and engaged and also take ownership.
After spending some time in the Lincoln District, I realized the district itself is a very diverse community with a long history, and the community has gone through a lot of changes. My artwork will have to be able to address those various elements. Instead of doing something very solid and concrete, I choose a motif that is always changing. In this case, we choose the motif of the cloud form, which in itself is never the same, it's always different, and that kind of reflects how Lincoln District has become and always been an ever-changing community. Another way to look at that motif is the cloud form sort of represent a sense of aspiration, and that's another aspect that I want to put into the art project, is to reflect that part of the community sense of aspiration.
Art is so important. Art beautifies this whole entire neighborhood, and if the neighborhood is beautiful, I think people will take more pride in the neighborhood and it will shine. I think students, if they have more engagement, will actually take care of it. But I think the artwork that is being chosen and the artwork that's will be installed is just going to make it a wonderful place to be.